Hi, I'm Kevin Klein, City Councillor for Charleswood, Tuxedo Westwood, and Chair of the Winnipeg Police Board. I reluctantly invite you inside Winnipeg City Hall. I have a bit of a heavy heart and some embarrassment bringing you in here today. Something happened today that I think is so important that all Winnipeggers watch, so that they know what happens within these walls, and they have evidence of how poorly run our city is through the current governance model. Today was the last day people could appear before EPC. That's the group hand-selected by Mayor Bowman. He could run into the City Council today, call a vote, and win, because he has those votes locked up. And today was our opportunity to speak to that budget, to go in, because we always hear, this is democratic, this is the process. You go to the Special Policy Committee meeting and you debate. That's where we debate things. That's where we talk about them. That's where you give your feelings. I don't want to say anything else, because this frustrated me. And it reminded me why I felt it so important to put my name on a ballot. Because I don't believe this is the way governments run anymore. It's been done like this for hundreds of years, and it's not working. Take a look. Maybe you'll tell me I'm wrong.
Good morning, and thank you for this opportunity to speak. It's challenging to have enough time to address all the items that we have gone through over the last few days since March 6th in the budget. The work that I have done has left me greatly concerned with the decisions that are being made to continue pushing this through. The complexity of a budget this size renders any analysis meaningless without a massive investment in time and access to the actual data used in preparation of these documents. When we received the binders on March 6th, our first opportunity to take a look at how money was going to be spent, I jumped in and was immediately confused by item 1B of the operating budget recommendations, which proposes that the mill rate be decreased from 13.290 to 12.861 in 2020. It struck me as odd that we were increasing property taxes while decreasing the mill rate. And I know that sometimes we have to do that according to assessments, but it was an interesting opportunity missed to maintain that mill rate and bring our pet taxes up ever slightly. There's three main categories to this budget. There's the policy, there's operations, and there's capital. Operations, many are showing risks. I can't understand why we are contemplating service cuts and more debt to balance a budget. I don't understand how we claim that our budgets are balanced when we utilize money from our stabilization fund year after year. We take profits from water and waste and parking, while infrastructure for those divisions, especially water and waste, reach critical status. I often hear we're growing to a city of 1 million. We are certainly growing to a city of $2 billion in debt. The numbers are in the book. The debt per person in Winnipeg in 2020 will reach $2,100. 10 years ago, 2010, it was $700. That's debt our kids are going to be left to pay. And we're borrowing more. And our cash to capital is dropping. Who would have thought just a few weeks ago Canada's borders would be closed, businesses would be shutting their doors, and we would be told to keep our distance from each other. Tragic events happen, And our first responders, our emergency management operations, are finely tuned and doing a wonderful job, as are many within the city's administration, because they're ready. They have a plan. They're following that plan, and they update that plan on a regular basis. That's what should be done. Asking questions at departments and sending emails and doing some of my own background, I discovered that we, as a city, as a leadership, are not ready. We're not ready. In the proposed spending plan, there is no consideration for economic events. None. There's no consideration for that. The Canadian government will announce a stimulus package today to try and help those that have to stay at home and try to get some money into the pockets of business owners while they suffer through this catastrophe as it grows daily. I sent a letter to His Worship and to all my colleagues on Council asking them to consider suspension of business tax for a few months or however long the business closes to ensure the health and safety of our residents. They close to err on the side of caution, and if they can't operate their business 100%, I see it as a small price to help our fellow Winnipeggers by just suspending the business tax. No reply. A few examples and risks that are closest to me right now because I've been able to watch and be a part of or participate in some of these meetings, not all of them, unfortunately. For the police budget, I asked what our plan was if the City of Winnipeg loses the arbitration with the association. We promised millions of dollars would go back into the service. We are down 100 officers in the last 5 years, yet the city has grown by 40,000 people, quite possibly more. So I asked our service, which we're allowed to do at the public meetings, why don't you have a plan? If it goes one way, we're going to lose officers to retirement. They have to be replaced. Training takes about a year. I mean, it's a number that I care not think about. What if the city loses? Now what? I asked what the plan was, and he said there is none, and I asked how could you manage an organization without having a backup plan to that expense? And he's told me I was told not to include it. We removed money from the account to build a new North End station, again, and we put it off again. And we take money from that that's set aside to build the new station, which is required to help pay the bills that we have today. Sign one of a spending problem. I asked what's going to happen if that building fails because there are great fears that that building will fail. Health and safety could walk in any day. And the plans were to mobilize quickly, get officers and services to different buildings in different locations at the cost of $500,000. Fantastic. So we got that money aside. No, I was told to take that out of the budget. I asked if we were able to save $1 million in gas, because we pay the city $1 million for gas. And I'll share the story with you that Ottawa heard that claim and immediately worked with their city and started to buy gas from a commercial station, and they get free car washes. They now save $1.8 million a year in gas. I asked about the budgeted ticket revenues for 4 years. How do you do that? How do you know how many people are going to speed? How do you know that you're going to give out that much in tickets? They don't. I asked if they met with the mayor and EPC +2 to review the budget, to explain the risk. And the answer I received was no, we just met with finance and made them aware of the risk, and I guess they spoke at an EPC meeting. In finance, I asked what our strategy is to recover from a severe decline we're facing today. Our investments in bonds in the millions are worth considerably less at this moment today than they were from 2 weeks ago. And probably in the time I finish, they'll be worth even less. Response is that we're following a prudent practice that is outlined in our protocols. That's not vision, that's not managing. Water and waste, I asked if they had a plan to address the phosphorus pollution that both levels of government have now agreed to take care of. We're in the middle of the testing. What is the plan now to put that into place? Where's the money in the budget? I'm sorry, I couldn't find it. Because it's not there. And I asked, well, why? Why is that not there? I thought we were going to have this done in a year. Well, we'll have to come back to council and ask for money for that. It's going to take longer than we thought to get to that point. I asked if we had a plan to address the CUPE arbitration that I understand we're entering into, because we had signed an agreement to return to CUPE actually collecting multifamily residences. And they said no plan. I said, what will happen if we lose that arbitration and they come back? We'll have to ask for more money. It's becoming a trend. That's it? You're going to cut me off there?
Well, we're just following the procedural rules that we have for everybody today.
So every time we ask for, I just want to be clear, every time we ask for an extension, major four-year plan, and that's it? Good call.
Have a great day.
Well done.
I think we have a question from Councillor Gillingham.
Councillor? Question? Thank you. You referenced the police budget as police board chair. It's your responsibility to bring forward for council's consideration information for the budget. I'm wondering why the Winnipeg Police Service was the only department to not meet its target and actually came in with a budget submission that was over target.
They presented their first budget target. The Winnipeg Police Board has to vote on that. The chair doesn't have a vote, as the mayor can tell you.
I'm just still wondering, that doesn't answer the question. Why did the police boards come in with submitting a budget that was over target?
Well, they're at the target now, and I guess we'll find out if history has made the right call. But let me be very clear and answer your question so it can't be spun. I didn't vote for the budget that the police board put together. I'm not required to vote unless it's a tie, and it wasn't a tie. The mayor's appointees and those the appointees of the province voted for the budget. So
just wondering, there was just my final question, I guess, on that is that there was, a lot of claims by yourself to be able to find, it'd be easy to find a lot of efficiencies within the budget. Yep. But yet it came in over. It was the only budget to come in over target. I'm just wondering why you were not able to do that.
Okay, I'll once again give it to you. I know what you're trying to do, and it's fine. Because the city wouldn't let us cut gas. We're kind of directed to do that. The city requires that we get our cars from them. You charge us for that. We want to get work done at the building. You charge them for that. You can save millions. You want to sit down and get rid of your charges, it can be done. I'm used to corporate charges. I know how they work. You can play them at any side you want. The fact is, you've created a 4-year plan that puts this city in debt, and the year after the election, the next group that comes in here, wow. Because that's a lot of debt to pay off, and I'm waiting for reports from S&P. I've asked for them from our city administration, still haven't got those. Haven't got a list of TIFs or the planned TIFs. It's pretty hard to do a budget when you keep it all locked up somewhere. But it's really easy to make the statements and claims that will manipulate the facts.
Yeah. So you are aware that you've been provided access to more information than council has in years past. I'm wondering, to your claim in regards to, that we're in trouble, my paraphrase of your words related to our investments, have you spoken to our city treasury on that? Have you asked that question?
I've asked the question. You were there.
Have you asked city treasury that question?
I have to ask the CAO, and he was there, and I asked. Your response, was we follow prudent practices.
I'm just asking you if you've asked the city
I
treasurer.
asked a question, Councillor. You were there. We don't get to ask questions directly if you recall.
I was there. You didn't ask the question
At finance,
you didn't ask the question of the city treasurer. So if
Okay,
you,
but if
if
you're
you
the
want the
chair-
information
if
from
you're
the city
if you're the
treasurer,
chair-
I would suggest you ask the city treasurer
Okay.
so that you make sure you do your due diligence on that. I
Okay.
would suggest.
So when the letter that I sent you with the UPass that clearly showed it's not a loss of $15 million.
I'll be charitable. Did you speak to the transit department about your calculations?
I spoke to actually people that do budgets.
So, well then why, if that's the case, then why did you exclude or not include the original cost of $11.7 million
For the
to run the
buses?
to run the UPass program?
To run for the buses that we already have?
Well, we'll prepare something, but there's serious errors in your calculations.
There's not serious errors in those calculations.
Well, about $40 million worth of errors. And so we'll present something to you and put it public. So
There's not. The fact is you manipulated it. You can't take revenue loss and say it's a loss. That doesn't happen in good accounting practices, in any accounting practice.
Are you aware at a basic level, and transit is a subsidized service. So at a basic level, as long as there's a transit mill rate support, and we're on our way to, in this budget, to $95 million annually of mill rate support, that only because there's a mill rate support that mill rate support has to be part of the calculation. Are you aware?
Are you aware of the $180 million profit they made over 10 years?
Are you aware that it's...
Are you aware of the $180 million profit?
Are you aware that you need to include all costs and the right numbers in your calculations? And we'll prepare that for you.
So Councillor, with all due respect, are you aware of where the $180 million went? You're the finance chair. You've been there for years. So have you seen it?
Councillor Klein, if I could just ask, we do have QP in our regular council meetings where you do have the ability to ask any committee chair questions. You've had the 10 minutes that we're allotting to everybody today in accordance with our procedural rules to make your presentations. I know that this is an opportunity for members of council on Executive Policy Committee to ask delegates questions. And so if I could ask, to the extent that you're willing, if you could just try to answer Councillor Gillingham's questions. And
you know what? I've done this game for a long time. Trying to get engineered statements doesn't work for me. So
I do.
You want to ask actual real questions about real budgets? Yeah.
I'll ask a few questions then. You've indicated today that you've drawn into question the submission of the police board. I know Councillor Gillingham had asked the question about the police board's submission being the only one that wasn't within the target as identified by Executive Policy Committee. My question is simple, and I'm going to try to keep my questions very, very simple. And I would just ask if you could answer yes or no, because I believe these questions could be answered with a yes or no, and I'll try to frame them in a way that's fair to that request. Do you support the police board submission on the budget? Yes or no?
No.
Could you provide us with what your submission would be then?
No. I'm not permitted under the Act, if you recall your letter.
Actually, you are permitted to.
No, I'm not.
So. Okay.
Former board members even know I'm not allowed to speak about the police board budget without the authority and approval of all members of the budget or of the board. So I can't speak on their behalf unless I ask and they know what I'm saying.
Okay, you may have some issues with your police board members then. I know that you...
I didn't put them there, you did.
If I could just ask my question, please. I know that you had mentioned the mayor's appointees on the board. Are you aware you are actually my only appointee, that the chair of the police board is the mayor or designate? I have asked you to provide leadership in that capacity, and the other appointees are made by council. Councillor Chambers is the council rep on the police board, and there are other representatives that are appointed by the provincial government. Are you aware of that?
I'm aware of that. I'm aware Councillor Chambers was appointed the vice chair, that it didn't follow the voting practice outlined in the governance of the board. And I'm aware that two are appointed by the City of Winnipeg, and 2 are appointed by the province of Manitoba.
You're a member of council. Have you introduced any motions at the respective committees for consideration in the budget?
For these budgets?
Well, I mean,
the ones that we jumped up.
The Executive Policy Committee now, today we're hearing from delegations. We are obviously looking at the recommendations that have, there's many points of input. We're hearing from delegations today, as well as the respective committees. I'm just wondering if you've introduced, as a member of council, you have a unique ability as a democratically elected member of council to introduce amendments or improvements. I know that you've spoken with the media and obviously sent emails, but have you introduced any amendments that you'd like to see to the budget in the committee process?
Does that have to do with my presentation? I thought you wanted to stick to the presentation.
I'm just wondering if you've introduced any motions.
I wonder what that has to do with my presentation right now. Rules are rules.
I'm asking as a member of council, and we are carrying our activities right now in accordance with the rules. I'm just wondering if you've introduced any motions at committees or not. I actually don't.
Yes, I have introduced several motions over the last several months on making the budget process much more democratic. Each one of them shot down here.
At the committees through the budget process over the last number of weeks?
I have made several motions with respect to the budget,
but
all of which would have made the budget process truly democratic. And all of them were shot down.
I'm aware of some of the ones that you've introduced at council in previous councils, but since the budget has been tabled, I'm just wondering if you've introduced at the budget committee meetings of respective committees, if you've introduced any amendments or not. I still welcome your input today, and
well, not all of it, right? Couldn't finish.
Well, I do appreciate you coming forward with some suggestions today. I do appreciate that, but I'm just wondering if there's any amendments that you've introduced as part of the budget considerations of the respective committees over the last couple of weeks.
Over the last week?
Since the budget has been tabled.
A week ago, right?
It was not tabled a week ago, but again, we can get into question period at the council meeting.
Okay. So you don't want to answer the day the budget
came out? My question is, I'll ask one more time. If you're not willing to answer it, that's fine. But the budget was tabled by Executive Policy Committee. Councillor Gillingham tabled it, and there have been a series of committee meetings in recent weeks, including Water and Waste and others, some of which you serve on and some of which you don't. And I'm just wondering if there's been motions that you've made at those committees for consideration for amendments to the budget.
The meetings were altered, which impacted a lot of people's schedules. So, yeah, we had Water and Waste last night. I think we're aware how the schedule got pushed up. So that doesn't allow for proper, it doesn't allow you to properly prepare, especially to make the presentation. You haven't given us that time. I'm sorry.
Okay. Councillor Allard?
Are you aware that when I was off of EPC, I moved motions that would have changed the budget to a form that I was prepared to vote for?
I'm not aware of that, but congratulations.
Okay. Are you aware that you're able to do that at your standing committee?
I have made several motions and was actually told to go back to community committee on several occasions, and every motion, except for a couple, were always voted down. But I guess we just keep hitting and see which one goes over the fence.
So did you move a motion to amend the budget or not?
Just ask that question. You want to go through this again?
Well, I didn't hear an answer. But
No.
So you did not.
No. So technicality.
So you don't have a budget that you would vote for then?
I wouldn't vote for this budget out of fear.
Well, I think I made my point.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Great day. Councillor.
There you go. I don't want to say a whole bunch about it. I understand they're nervous. I understand they're feeling the pressure. And I don't blame them. I mean, it's very hard to put together a budget, not to mention a complex budget that has many moving parts and is over $1 billion. They've tried to make it easy by saying they balance the budget, stealing funds from other departments, or taking your reserve fund money. They have no plan. They have no backup strategy, and our city is at risk. Most importantly, kids that aren't even born today are going to be paying for the mistakes of mismanagement we're making today.